How are we doing, students? Mr. Schreiber here. Very excited to, start doing these lessons with you so I can kind of finally get a chance to talk to you again. I hope all of you, number one, are totally wearing sweatpants, enjoying yourself, and number two, that you got to sleep in and kind of wake up on your own time. These are kind of some of the advantages right now of having this extended closure. So guys, what we're going to do is I'm going to try to make this a pretty quick video. I'm not going to take up too much time. And hopefully, if it's something where it's too quick, you can go back, you can pause it so you can get all the notes down. So we're going to go into the Pythagorean Theorem. And I would say it's probably in the top 10 of the most important theorems you're going to learn in math. If you ask your parents, they may actually know what this theorem is. And it's something that you can use really anywhere to find the distance between two things given a right triangle. So what is the Pythagorean theorem? I'm going to read this to you, and then I'm going to give you my version. It is the square of the length of the hypotenuse of a right triangle is equal to the sum of the squares of the two legs. What does that mean? That basically means that if you have a right triangle, and the key is it has to be a right triangle, it's got to be a right triangle, that if you know two lengths here, if you know A and B, then you can find C. So if you know this is 5 and this is 4, you can use this formula, 5 squared plus 4 squared, and that is going to equal C squared. So knowing this formula, we can find any side of a triangle given two other sides. So the two things that you need to know about legs, you need to know about hypotenuse. The legs are going to be the two shorter sides, right here and here. That's going to be your A or your B, and it doesn't really matter. You can switch these up. This could be A and this could be B. And this is always going to be C. This is going to be your longest length. That's going to be important. That's your hypotenuse, and it is always directly across from this right angle here. So before we start, this is Pythagoras. This is the guy who found out about A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And this is a super cool video to prove why it works. So get ready. The music is incredibly, how do I put this? I don't know if I want to use the word catchy, maybe annoying, but it's going to stay in your head maybe for the rest of the day. So you may want to mute it at this point. Hold on 1 second. This comes up. Come on now, computer. Come on. As this is coming up, I can tell you that, well, here we go. You can see this is A and this is B, and if you square it, A squared plus B squared, these squares here will always equal the longer side squared. A plus B equals C does not work, but A squared plus B squared always works. And you'll see it that they will equal both sides. Okay. I want you to know if you're humming along there, that's perfectly okay, and you're not crazy. So before we move on, I want to talk about Pythagoras, this guy who made up this theorem, because some of the rumors on him are absolutely crazy, and I think it's important to go over them. Number one, he had like a religious commune that had like secretive doctrines that involved like geometric formulations. He actually believed that numbers could explain all things in the universe. Pretty crazy. He believed in reincarnation. He believed the number 10 was the perfect number. There are rumors that he refused to eat beans, just kind of weird. And he wouldn't eat bread if it was cut in a certain way. And also, he was someone who technically believed that you couldn't wear animal skins for clothing. Along with that, he was just kind of a very interesting guy. Very smart, though. Of course, he came up with a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So let's take on our first problem. So in this case, we have example 1. So Alan can ride his bike on 2 highways to get from his house to his friend Carl's house. He can also ride his bike on a side street between the 2 houses. How far does he bike if he takes the side street? So take a look here. First thing I want you guys to do is whenever you have a problem like this, if you're a little confused, I want you to label, and this is what I'm going to try to do with my computer. It's going to be not very good. Here we go. I want you to label A, B, and C. Very important to know that this A and B could be interchanged. Doesn't matter how you put them. But you guys can see that across from the, right angle here is going to be your C. And that is our unknown. We don't know what C equals, but we do have A and B. So when you solve this, every single time we're going to write this formula out, that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. From here, we can plug in the numbers. We know that 10 squared plus 7.5 squared equals C squared. And all you have to do from here is just solve it. Now, you guys can use a calculator. That's perfectly fine. And we're just going to square that. That's going to be 100. When you take 7.5 squared, it's going to be 56.25. And when you add that together, you're going to get this here. If you guys remember that when we solved for the radius on the area of a circle, very similar, we're going to get rid of this squared by doing the opposite. And doing the opposite of squaring a number, if you guys remember, is doing the square root. And if you find the square root of 156.25, you're going to get your answer. And what I want you guys to do in this case, I think it comes out perfectly to 12.5, but I want you guys always to round this to the nearest tenth. So the answer here is going to be the side street is going to be 12.5 kilometers. And again, we used A squared plus B squared equals C squared to do that. Let's take a look at another problem. What I'd like you to do now is, if you'd like to pause this video, take a look at what we did beforehand. And I want to see if you can solve this one on your own. Use A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And right now, if you'd like to pause this video, you can, so you can try to solve this problem on your own. If not, you can follow along with me. It's perfectly fine. Again, I'm going to label these again. That's your A. Let's see if I can make my super awesome B here. And then right across, what we don't know, the unknown is C. Okay, that's my terrible looking C. So again, we always plug in our formula, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Again, this only works with right triangles. Very important to know this only works with right triangles. And we're going to plug in these values. 9 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. Okay, so far so good. And we're just going to make that 81 plus 144 when you square the numbers equals C squared. And then when you add those together, it's going to be 225 equals C squared. And then we're just going to make this square root to get rid of that square. We don't want to know what C squared is. We want to know what this value is. And by the way, if you want to plug this in as X, that's perfectly fine. It says X here. You can do that. And the answer is 15. The answer is going to be 15 feet based on the problem of Merlin wanting to put a fence around a right rectangular garden. And very simply, again, I'll leave this up here. You can see, you just plug in the numbers, plug in the formula, and you got it. So what happens when you don't have a leg and you have everything else? So I'm going to try to move this around so you can see it better. Not my face. There we go. Let's put it right there. It says some students are having a car wash fundraiser. They attach one end of a banner with flags on it to the top of a pole that is 12 feet tall. They attach the other end to the ground. It says if the banner is 15 feet long, how far from the base of the pole is the banner attached? And again, all you're going to do, the very first step is I want you to label. Let's get this thing out of the way. That's going to come up. Gosh darn it. All the perils of doing this online. Let's label this A. It doesn't matter if you label this A or B. This is going to be B. If you want to leave that as X, that's perfectly fine. And this is going to be C. And as you can see, the difference here is now we have C. We don't have B or A. It doesn't really matter how you put it. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I think when I made this A. And we can move this over here. That can be A and this can be B. That's perfectly fine. And we're still going to solve this the same way. We're going to, square the numbers, 144, and that's going to be 225. And you can guess this is very similar to what a two-step equation would be. And we're going to take away 144 from both sides. And I'm hoping you guys could do some mental math right here, but we're going to find the square root of each to find out what X is going to be, in this case, A. And our answer is going to be A equals 9. Or in this case, let's take a look up here, 9 feet. So the base of the pole is the banner attached to. That's going to be 9 feet there. And again, very similar. The only difference here is, we have the value of C. We don't have the value of A here. All right. Now, you may have a problem like this where you don't have a picture. This becomes a little bit more difficult, and I'm going to show you guys my terrible picture in a second after we read this. It says, Mr. Schreiber wants to build a slide for his daughter in the backyard. Not yet. She's only 3 months old, but in time, maybe. He buys a slide that is 8 feet long. The vertical height of the stairs is 5 feet. It says, find the distance from the bottom of the stairs to the base of the slide. And I think it helps to draw a picture because I think this is a little confusing here. So I want you to draw a picture of a slide, something like this. And then you can label that the height of the stairs is 5, and that's going to be vertical. The slide, of course, is going to be, it's going to be a diagonal, or that's going to be your C. And then our unknown is on the bottom here. So let's label this as A. That's going to be B, or those are interchangeable, and that's going to be right across. That's going to be C. And as you guys can see, we have 2 of the 3 pieces of information. So if you'd like to pause this right now and try this on your own, you can. If not, that's okay. You can work it out with us right here. So we always start with A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and we're just going to plug in our numbers. So I think I changed this up. I made this B. That's fine. Doesn't matter. These are interchangeable. Only thing you can't interchange the C and the A. It's got to be the 2 legs, and then the longest side is going to be the hypotenuse. Five squared is 25. 8 squared is 64. We're going to take away 25 on both sides. And you're going to realize on this one, this is not going to be a perfect number. If you find the square root of 39, that's not going to be perfect. So I want you guys to round this to the nearest tenth. When you plug that in your calculator, you're going to get 6.2 feet. So the answer here is from the base of the slide is going to be 6.2 feet. Everybody, that's it. You're all done. Now I want you guys to go on Schoology and click on the checkout problems labeled Pythagorean Theorem 1 and complete. There's only, I think, 3 or 4 problems. Take your time. You can do as many attempts as you want. And the main thing is, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach me out to me on Schoology, and I'll help you out. You guys rock. I hope you guys are having a great week.